Shalom, Kahala Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakak Radash. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, with the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Asherallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing their true heritage were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about this comment right here. But before we get into this, let's read this scripture here. This is Isaiah 24:11. There is crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. And as that scripture says, man, the mirth of the land is gone and all has been darkened, man. When you look at what's been going on these last centuries, you can tell that there is something very different in the America that these last generations have grown up with than the America that the last great generations, as they call themselves, grew up in. Right, let's read this comment from Tom Jode, the Wet Sprocket. He says, "What was the last big win for the United States? The moon landing? 50 fucking years ago. Nobody under 50 remembers anything but failure. I'm 35. My whole life, this thing has done nothing but fail and deteriorate." Right? And this man wrote this, in December of last year, man. But he basically struck the nail right on the head, man. Right? Unless that nobody under 50, right, remembers anything but failure. Now, why is that? Well, it's because there was a biblical curse put upon the nation known as United States, or which biblically is known as Babylon the Great. You see, America isn't just some anomaly, right? Some empire that just has been so great and world-reaching that it's not in the Bible, right? On contrary, it is one of the main characters in the Bible, right? It's known as Babylon the Great, the mother of all harlots, right? This is the last kingdom that will come before the second coming of the Messiah, right? And it is prophesied that this kingdom, Babylon the Great, would be the empire of the wicked Edomites, right? Edomite being the biblical name for the so-called Caucasian race, right? And within Babylon the Great would be all wickedness, right? Witchcraft, harlotry, right? All abominations would be born from Babylon the Great, right? And this is also why you see America is hated all around the world. Now, that being said, with this man here, let's go back to what he says, man. If you are under 50, right, all you've known are failures, right? And that's true, right? Because the last great thing, like this man says, was the moon landing, which, first of all, that's even contested there, right? Now, these Edomites did go into space, but they only made it to the low altitude, right? Or high altitude, right? They never made it to the moon, right? Now, let's read this. This is Obadiah 1:4, which is the one chapter that's created in the Bible that's specifically, pinned to the so-called Caucasian race. This book here is completely about the nation of Edom and the judgment which the Lord is going to bring upon them. Now, in this verse here, verse 4, it says, "Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest amongst the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai." Right? And notice how it says here, man. From the moment that you set your nest amongst the stars, right? Once you go into space, that's when the Lord would start bringing these Edomites down, right? And that's exactly what's happened. That's exactly what this comment here has basically proven, man. See, this man here doesn't realize what he has pointed out is prophecy, right? That the Lord would let these Edomites get into space, but at that point, that's when the Lord would spiritually start bringing down the Edomite Empire, right? And you could look at how that started happening, man. When you look into how the drugs and the psychedelic ages came at the end of the 60s, the early 70s, right? It started bringing a counterculture to these Edomites empire, right? And then after that, from the mid 70s to the 80s, you had these Edomites basically try to counter the effects that were happening to its people, and started bringing these travesties amongst our people, man, right? Initiating the crack cocaine pandemic, all the South American guerrilla war tactics of basically backing these coups and all these things, right? Destroying the Israelites in turn. Well, it didn't matter what these Edomites did, man. It ultimately, when you look at what's happening now with the what is it? The opioid epidemic and all the stuff that's targeting mainly these Edomites, you can see that it's ultimately turning back upon these Edomites again and again. It doesn't matter what they continue to try to do to stop these curses coming upon them. There's nothing that they can do, right? Now, yes, they are purposely, imploding the economy. They're destroying the jobs market. They're destroying the food stockpile. They're disintegrating the supply chain, all in efforts to bring forth the New World Order, right? This New World Empire, which will not have you Israelites, you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are not invited, right? And that is unless you comply with these devil's commandments, right? And being that you comply, you're ultimately going to have a very short lifespan, and you're not going to be able to reproduce under their kingdom, and you're eventually going to be weeded out as weeds in a garden ought to be, right? So says these devils, right, by their prophet Margaret Sanger. Now this is Psalms 49 and 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. Right? And this right here is talking about these Edomites, right? How when you look at the lands that they've conquered, the areas that they've taken over, they basically have renamed places after their name. Look at America, right? America is named after an Edomite called Amerigo Vespucci, right? You look at Africa, right? It's named after a Roman Edomite called Scipio Africanus, right? If you look at Asia, that's named after his brother, another Roman Edomite, right? Called Scipio Asiaticus, right? And there's so many different names or continents named after these devils. Why do they do this? Well, because is that their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, right? So right now, a lot of these Edomites are losing it, right? They're basically going crazy because they could see that their empire is falling, man. That they are not able to regain the composure of being that world dominant leading force, right? They're now seeing that they're losing their powers to these Moabites, these Chinese, these other countries that are standing up. They see that Russia is now being seen as the good guys, right? And that they see that the so-called immigrants, right, the Latinos, basically the northern tribes, are starting to basically outbreed them, right? They see that we're coming up and they're going down, right? And this is why you're seeing a lot more Edomites losing their shit, man. And it's only going to get worse because their kingdom is only going to continue to devolve more and more the closer we get to the end time events. And in doing so, the Edomites at the very top, so the people who know what's going on, even though they pretend like everything's A-okay and that there's not a problem in sight, they know that they had to do something. And what are they doing? Well, like I said, they're initiating the New World Order. And what does that mean? That means that they're basically started this whole depopulation agenda, right? Which is where they're going to ultimately take you Israelites out, right? You Israelites and anybody who does not go along with their agenda does not have a place in this new world order. This is Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. So you see, though these Edomites have an agenda and a plan that they are going to try to enact, right, bringing forth this new world order, getting everybody, chipped up, basically resetting the world economic system, and basically being the new kings of the world, with complete power. They're not going to be able to succeed. There's going to be no throne for them, right? That kingdom that they are trying to build themselves, they're going to fail, and there's going to be no seat of rulership that's going to be there for them, man. The Lord has told them, for the most part, in the scripture, that their job is done, that their time to rule has hit the wall, right? As the biblical saying is, man, the writing is on the wall, and these Edomites' time is up. Right, and that also is spoken about in Job. This is Job 14:5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds, that he cannot pass. So you see, it doesn't matter how many agenda points are hit. It doesn't matter how many people these devils managed to get bitten by the snake. It doesn't matter how many underground bases they dig, right? These devils are not going to be able to extend their rulership or extend their time here on earth any longer than what the Lord has determined for them to do, right? And why is that? Well, that's because the Lord rules everything, right? And in his rulership, right, the Lord does not want these Edomites to be in power, right? And this is ultimately why you're seeing the things going forth now. Is because these Edomites, they understand that the second coming of the Messiah is ultimately their end. And this is why you will see the Caucasian races around the world, from the Americans, the English, the French, the Israelis, the South Africans, the Australians, the Russians, all these Edomites and all the nations that are with them, they will in fact try to fight against the Lord, right? When it tells you that in Revelations that Michael fought with his angels against Satan and his angels, right? Satan and the devil and his angels are basically going to be these Edomites, right? These Caucasians and all the other nations that are with them, that are going to try to fight against the Lord when he comes back, right? That's the plain truth, man. But I just wanted to make this quick lesson, Akim. I seen that comment, and I immediately thought of all these scriptures, man. Right? Especially since he says, man, that ever since the moon landing, that there's been nothing but failure, man. And that's true, man, because that is a biblical prophecy coming to play. So with all that, I want to give all praises to Yahweh B'Shem Elashai, B'Shem Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders, great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.